The incident happened on October 12th, during a gloomy afternoon with heavy rain. My school had 2 lunch shifts, the first for 6th graders and part of the 7th grade, and the second for the rest of the 7th grade and all 8th graders. During the first lunch shift, while everyone was eating as usual, I suddenly heard 4 loud bangs coming from the direction of the school gate. At first, I thought they were thunderclaps because of the rain, but students in the cafeteria began screaming. Right after that, the school security guards rushed inside and shouted for everyone to run to the multipurpose room immediately. Students who were standing in line to buy food had to abandon their trays and run. My friends and I were swept into a crowd of panicked students, all confused and unsure of what was happening. The multipurpose room was large, with a huge glass wall at the back. As soon as we ran in, the guards pulled down all the blackout curtains, covering every inch of the glass. Teachers stood at each doorway, their faces tense and serious, and no one dared to speak loudly. My friend Eric went to ask a staff member what was going on. When he came back, his face was pale. He said, "There's a man who escaped from prison in the neighboring state. He has a gun and ran into the neighborhood outside our school. When the police surrounded him, he ran straight into the school, looking for a place to hide. And he grabbed a 7th grade student as a hostage near the cafeteria." My whole body turned cold. Those 4 loud bangs earlier weren't thunder, they were warning shots fired by the police when he tried to break through the fence. We were locked inside the multi-purpose room for nearly an hour. No one was allowed to move around, and no one dared to make loud noise. Outside, the sound of police sirens, officers shouting commands through loudspeakers, and the rain pounding on the roof made the atmosphere feel suffocating. About an hour later, the police announced they had subdued the escaped inmate and safely rescued the hostage student. Once things stabilized, students were escorted back to their classrooms in small groups. After the incident, I learned that the escaped man had once lived near my friend Brandy before he was arrested last year. She told me that on Halloween the previous year, she had seen him standing by his window, blood all over his hands, writing on the glass, "Don't come near, I have a gun." At the time, everyone thought it was just Halloween decoration. But after what happened on October 12th, it became clear that he was truly dangerous and no longer stable. It was a day our entire school would never forget. It all happened at 2:17 p.m. on Friday, March 15th, 2013. A moment that was supposed to be nothing more than the end of a normal school day, and instead became something none of us would ever forget. We were in 7th period calculus, counting down the minutes until spring break. Everyone was tired, restless, just waiting for the bell. Our teacher was in a relaxed mood and let us play a brand logo quiz on Sporkle. The room felt light, calm, almost sleepy. My friend had just answered the word Adidas when suddenly, bang, a gunshot echoed from the A building. Sharp, heavy, real. The kind of sound that drains every ounce of warmth from your body. The entire class froze. 1 second later, the intercom clicked on, and our dean's voice came through shaking, breathless. "This is not a drill. All teachers locked down immediately. Repeat, this is not a drill." That was the moment I felt a cold wave rush down my back. Even our usually laid-back teacher went pale. He ran to the door, killed the lights, and ushered all of us into the far corner of the room. Then, silence. The kind of silence that hurts your ears. But it didn't last long. Footsteps began echoing down the hallway. Fast, uneven, almost desperate. Then we heard a choked, broken voice yelling something we couldn't fully make out. A girl next to me covered her mouth. And then we heard it clearly. "You're all gonna pay for what you did. All of you." A whisper rippled across the room. Oh my God, that's Evan. Evan. A senior who spent most of his days alone. A kid who had been bullied for years, mocked for the way he talked, laughed at for the way he dressed, pushed around because he never fought back. Over the past few months, he'd missed school often. Someone said he was dealing with depression. Others joked about it. Nobody imagined it could ever come to this. His footsteps grew louder as he approached our classroom. We heard something metallic dragging across the floor, and then the breathing heavy, frantic, right outside our door. THUD. Evan slammed his fist against it. A girl let out a quiet sob. He hit the door again, harder. "Open it. Don't hide from me. Open the door." I felt my heartbeat in my throat. I genuinely believed that if that door gave way, someone in our class wasn't going home. After what felt like an eternity, but was probably 1 minute, his footsteps dragged away, slowly, unsteady. Then they disappeared entirely into the hallway. Nobody moved. Nobody even dared whisper. About 10 minutes later, though it felt like half an hour, the intercom cracked on again. The dean's voice trembled as he said, "Stay where you are. The suspect is a student, armed and unstable. Do not open your doors for anyone." We sat in that dark corner, listening to every distant sound in the hallway, every creak, every breath. The school was eventually cleared classroom by classroom. But Evan wasn't found. Not until later that evening, when a night shift custodian discovered him collapsed in a storage closet near the back of the school. The gun was on the floor beside him. He never fired another shot after the first one. Maybe he only meant to scare people. Maybe he wanted someone to hear his pain. Maybe he didn't know what he wanted at all. Evan was taken to a hospital and eventually to a mental health facility. We never saw him again. No one ever talked publicly about what happened, and maybe that's for the best. But I know this much. The sound of that gunshot, his voice screaming outside our classroom door, and the way the entire world seemed to stop breathing in that moment, those things will stay with me for the rest of my life. It happened on October 14th, 2019, a cold Monday afternoon that should have been just another ordinary school day. The final bell rang at 3:10, and students from Washington Middle School poured out onto the sidewalk, laughing, talking, shoving each other the way kids always do. I usually walked home 15 minutes, straight down Washington Street. It was a habit I never questioned, until that day. As I stepped through the front gate, something immediately caught my eye. A man was standing by the street lamp about 100 feet away. He wore a dark hoodie despite the chilly air, head down, hands in his pockets. What made me notice him wasn't the outfit, it was the way he was staring directly at the exit, like he'd been waiting for someone. I tried to ignore him. People wait around schools all the time, right? But when I turned right onto Washington Street, I heard footsteps fall in behind me. Slow, heavy, steady. Too steady. I quickened my pace. The footsteps quickened too. A cold knot formed in my stomach. I glanced at the reflection in the window of a corner store. The man from the street lamp was behind me, maybe 20 yards back, walking with the same exact rhythm I heard. That's when I knew he wasn't just another passerby. I suddenly crossed the street without warning, pretending I forgot something, and he crossed with me. Same angle, same speed, no hesitation at all. Fear hit me so hard my hands began shaking. Washington Street was long, with stretches of empty houses and overgrown lawns. Not much traffic. Not many people outside this time of day. If something happened, no one would see. When I reached a row of old maple trees, the air grew colder. That's when the sound behind me changed. No longer steady footsteps, but a slow dragging sound, fingertips scraping along the tree bark. Long, thin, deliberate. Like he wanted me to hear it. Like he wanted me to know he was getting closer. I stole a quick glance over my shoulder. He had lifted his head. His hood cast a shadow over his face, but I could feel his eyes locked on me. No emotion, no expression, just watching. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I wasn't a fast runner, but I knew I was only 3 blocks away from Parker's Laundry, a place that always had people inside. If I made it there, I'd be safe. So I made a decision. I ran, not a jog, not a sprint. A desperate, full-body run fueled by pure adrenaline. The moment my feet hit the pavement, I heard his steps explode behind me. He was running too, fast. I didn't dare look back. I could hear him closing the distance, his breath sharp and ragged, his shoes slamming the sidewalk harder and harder. I burst through the door of Parker's Laundry, nearly falling onto the tile floor. The bell above the door rang violently. "Mrs." Parker rushed over. "Sweetheart, what happened? Is someone chasing you?" I spun around, pointing outside, gasping for air. But the sidewalk was empty. No footsteps, no man, nothing at all. Just quiet street and falling leaves. I felt sick. I knew what I'd heard. I knew what I'd seen in that store window. What I'd felt chasing me down the block. "Mrs." Parker called the police anyway, and 2 officers arrived 10 minutes later. They checked the street, questioned nearby neighbors, and finally asked to see the security footage. We watched it together. The video showed me sprinting toward the door. It showed me yanking it open, looking terrified. It even showed me turning back toward the street. But behind me, there was no one. Not a single person following, not even a shadow. The officer suggested maybe I misheard something, or panicked after seeing someone who looked suspicious. But I knew that wasn't true. I heard footsteps. I heard his fingers drag across the trees. I saw him cross the street behind me. People don't imagine details like that. For a full week, I tried to move on. I avoided walking home alone, kept to crowded areas, told myself it had to be some misunderstanding. Then one morning, at my locker, I found a note folded between my textbooks. In shaky black ink, it said, "Good job running last Monday. Let's play again sometime." No signature, no name, no one nearby when I opened it. I handed it to the police, but nothing ever came of it. All I know is this: someone followed me that day. Someone close enough to whisper in my ear. Someone who wasn't afraid to let me know he could come back anytime he wanted. And from that day on, I never walked home again.